Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Starseed Ministry. It is March 28th, 2022. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. And special hello to the Starseed Fellowship. We met on Friday night. We had some really awesome conversation that ranged from the chemistry and the physics of the sun and plasma and space weather, all the way to much more archetypal, symbolic starseed connections to Orion, how there's a connection to all of this Pisces Virgo energy that really is very strong right now with Neptune. And it was a really cool conversation. So if that's something that interests you, you're like, what is the Starseed Fellowship? I actually did a video not that long ago to kind of explain where I'm coming from with the concepts of the Starseed Ministry and the Starseed Fellowship. But truly, the Fellowship is a monthly subscriber base that has access to exclusive content of astrology, new moon and full moon forecasts for your sign. And then every other week we meet on Zoom and just give ourselves time and space to connect and to meet up and to talk and to listen and to really allow the wheel to keep turning, right? So that link to Subscribe Star is in the description box below. It's only $3 a month and you have access to all of those things. So welcome to Monday, everyone. I'm going to get myself out of the studio mode here, check in with the stream and see how healthy it is. It looks pretty good to me. So what we're looking at in front of us here is just some eye candy, I guess you could say. So astronomy picture of the day. It's linked in the description box below as well if you want access to that. And really, there's a couple things here that, besides the fact that this is a beautiful display of stars, a constellation, the Southern Cross, and a nebula, there's something about this small island in the middle of the ocean, Maldives or Maldives. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but there's something very specific here in terms of the imagery that's related to a very big astrological transit today, and especially where Neptune has been sitting for a while. So we'll talk about that. And then Alpha Centauri, our closest stellar neighbor, the closest star system to our star system. So Alpha Centauri is technically a trinary star system. There's a binary system that is what you actually see here. These two stars that are very similar in spectral class to our own sun. And then there's a third star, Proxima Centauri, that is a red dwarf. So it's smaller, it has less mass, less luminosity. It's actually the one that's closest to us in terms of distance. So Alpha Centauri is about four and a half roughly light years away. So with current propulsion as it is, it would take like 70,000 years to get to Alpha Centauri. And so 4 light years, right? It takes light 4.5 years to travel from here to Alpha Centauri, for instance. So that's what that means. And so vast distances of space. It's so interesting. But speaking of suns and the connection between Alpha Centauri and the suns around Alpha Centauri, right? So they're in a binary that they are orbiting each other around some sort of central point of gravity. This is where these multiple star systems, how they function. So Alpha Centauri, like I said, is close to us. So we're going to talk about the sun today and maybe a little bit of an extension of the conversation on Friday for those of you that were part of it or got to catch the replay as well. And there's more solar weather, and I think that it's important to really, I know for me it's been very helpful and I wouldn't say comforting, but understanding our sun and what it's doing and what the research has been showing us for a very long time and where we're coming into the sun cycle, how it's related to us, and the wheel goes round, does it not? And of course, I have a reading to share with you all today. So we'll get to all of those things. How can it bloom? This is my seasonal forecast for readings, and I'm still taking bookings up until the 1st, which is our Aries new moon that will be conjunct Chiron. It will be conjunct Mercury. April is going to pop off, and we're really going to be facing collectively and individually our the aspects of Chiron that really hold us back from becoming more than we already are or think we already are. So we'll get to that. There's going to be the content for the subscribers coming out, the new moon forecast, and we'll be doing an astrology report at the end of the week as we usually do. So I'm still taking bookings for this, so a 60-minute recording or 90-minute recording as you need, right? And it's looking at your natal chart, your progress chart, your star seed markings from the March equinox really up until the solstice. And honestly, we're looking really into August. I think there's probably makes more sense. Of course, seasonally, we go up to the solstice, but it seems like there is an energetic thread that's going to take us through August, definitely through July into August. So I think it'll be much more generalized when we get to that point, but this is what I'm offering right now. So you can go to the website in the description box below if you're interested, or you can send me an email directly, how can it bloom, in the subject line, and request your reading as well. Okay, so I'm going to check in with the chat here, see how people are doing. Good morning, Megan. So good to see you. Barb said, crazy weekend. It's nice to have Monday ministry. Oh, my Lord. So I will, and please feel free to share your weekend. Have, the dialogue in the chat. I'm going to share my experience right now, and maybe it will give you some idea of, that we're not alone, right? And I think that there is a sense of the sobering reality of things. So there's a couple very specific transits that are active today and exact, right? So Venus and Saturn will make their conjunction at 22 degrees Aquarius. I'm going to talk about that a lot. It's very much woven into the reading that I'm going to offer today as part of the transmission. But also the moon is in Aquarius right now as well. And so we'll be meeting Venus, be meeting Saturn. Asteroid Juno is in conjunction with Venus and Saturn and the moon as well today. So she is the wife of Zeus or Jupiter. She represents the queen of the heavens or the gods. And she's really much more of a representative and advocate for the state and for the people and for women and institutions of marriage and family, right? She's way more involved with the people as opposed to her counterpart, Jupiter or Zeus, as a symbol. It represents the bigger picture and much more of the dome of the heavens, so to speak, but is much more representative of the larger spirit of things, the big picture, the understanding, the synthesis of all. But it's Hera or Juno that is way more involved in the lives of us, basically, of the people on the terra firma, as it were. And so this asteroid's also in conjunction with the moon and Venus and Saturn, and they're pretty much going to be in the conjunction all at the same time today. So I really want to take a moment to look at that degree in the Sabian symbols, because it's sobering. It's sobering, and it's not very much of a cushion, even though there is some cushion. And I made the reference last week on the Friday astrology stream that when there is nothing but a concrete floor that you can be on, that bamboo mat is a very appreciated cushion, when it doesn't seem like that would be anything when you're used to having that cushy, right, your foam or cushy yoga mat or something, to that effect. When things are more lush or there's more comfort, I think it's very difficult to accept how something so small could be such a comfort. But this is what it represents. And Venus meeting Saturn, this can be very frustrating. This can be very sad. There can be some bitterness. I'm definitely feeling the sadness of this. And there will be some cushioning. So it really depends on where Aquarius is at in your chart. And there is some representation, something, right? Again, asteroid Juno, and what this represents is this advocacy and representation for what is for the best for the people, right? And representing those institutions, representing those contracts, representing fairness, right? Juno seems to be more of the legal advocate, right? That you would have in the courtroom with you, right? Whereas Jupiter is more of the lawyer, if that makes sense. So this all of this in Aquarius right now. So know where Aquarius is at in your chart. Know what is strong Aquarius. Maybe know where Leo, if you have strong Leo, it's going to be in opposition to all of this energy, because it is very sobering, and it's very sad. Today is the 2 years since my dad's brother died, right at the beginning of the shutdown here in the United States at the very end of March of 2020. And for all of my personal connections, the spiritual growth, everything around that issue, it still comes back around, and there's some deep feels. But what I also got was this very strong sense of grief at a very collective level, because of what we're going to see is in the reading and this is what I felt, the wheel is going around, right? And can't hold on, and you can't stand still. If the thunder don't get you, then the lightning will, right? We are at a point now where there is a zenith of development, and something coming, not even coming into fruition, but reaching its cyclical climax, right? And it's not exactly very well received by everyone. And there are many people who are very excited. They're anticipating that this is, in fact, a disclosure timeline, right? I listened to Magenta Pixie's channeling after I did all my prep, and right before I came on, I was like, whoa, that seems a lot like what I've been feeling, especially this morning. And she even referenced solar winds and to pay attention to them. So I'm going to talk about that too, just to give some grounding into what that means, because the sun is, peaking its solar maximum here. It's starting to really get into that stage. That means more solar weather, more solar flares, more sunspots, more coronal mass ejections, right? More plasma coming at us, interacting with our weakening field. But what it also does is what we discussed on Friday night, through the presentation that I was offering, was that it's called the four-bush, F-O-R-B-U-S-H, four-bush effect, where this plasma comes and sweeps away cosmic rays, which are incredibly more damaging. The radiation from cosmic rays is way more damaging and way more impactful. And the plasma that comes out of our sun, sweeping it away so that we are not as impacted. So I want to keep paying attention to these trends here, because for all of the discomfort of the solar flaring and the weakening of our field, it's actually serving to mitigate a process that may be way more dangerous and way more destructive, right? Cosmic rays are one of the biggest issues for space travel. Just going to the space station, or even going to Mars, right? Cosmic rays are particles traveling near the speed of light. It's not technically light. It's not photons. It's actual mass traveling near the speed of light. And so it's carrying energy, high energy. And it has a real significant impact, just like on the biological integrity of anybody in space. So I want to pay attention to these things. And we did talk about it on Friday, but the wheel is going round, and but that cushion is so appreciated when you have to face some very difficult truths, and not even just emotionally, but in your very senses. That's a lot of what Venus represents. And of course, in Aquarius, there's a bit of detachment and a sense of this is what's best for everyone. But even meeting Saturn, it's still kind of like, oh, this is what this feels like. And oftentimes Venus transits, at least for me, which explains kind of my expulsion of sobbing uncontrollably yesterday, as I am, feeling into my very self and my spirit, like the shock of things, even with, even with that cushion, Venus, for me at least, is, and I'm curious how other people experience this. Venus for me is very, I have very visceral expressions of my feelings, right? Sobbing, crying. Maybe you have other kinds of experiences in your body. Venus tends to be this. And so you may find yourself actually being comforted just by having the capacity to feel something, and not even just emotionally, in your senses, in your energy. And when you cry, yes, it is connected to your emotional feeling, but it is a very physical experience and a very embodied experience as well. So there may be some of these experiences for you, even though there's also lots to be comforted by. There's lots to appreciate. There's lots to be aware of in terms of what our dharma and what we're here to do, and to be open and even, people feeling optimistic, feeling joyful, understanding the big picture in a lot of ways. And so we can be in both places at once. It's okay. In fact, that's a lot of what the sun was providing for us over the weekend, in its transits of early Aries, starting to really just touch on the idea that we also hold the duality within us. And that's where our own creative potential comes from, to grow and to evolve. So lots of themes right now. So I'm going to move over to the chat real quick and see what people have to say, because it's important that we're having the space to be able to talk to each other. And then I'll go into all the facets of today's ministry. So sleep challenges are continue. I wake up feeling like I've been through battles. My body aches and it's wild. Yes, me too. Like, so it just keeps going, right? It hasn't really stopped in terms of that. I don't normally watch, but my roommate had Oscars on TV. Actual physical fright broke out. Oh yeah, that's all over the internet. Took me back to Dee talking about Mars square Uranus, many explosive collective energies. So collective karmic suffering being brought to the surface now and revealed in its fullness. Absolutely. And it's okay to feel it, even if it's not yours, even if it is yours, right? There's, and everybody's going to have their own experiences of this, and it is collective karmic suffering, and how we respond to this collectively is not set yet. There is a singularity of where it's all going, but how each person responds, or how we all respond at a collective level and what that feels like, that's not entirely set. It is to a certain extent, and we'll see it in the reading. But a lot of how we each individually approach what is happening is a big part of the story. And the new moon in Aries conjunct Chiron is going to be the beginning, the intention, or the seed point, as we all work around this, or work through it, or just be present with it. And it's going to have a big impact on how things unfold. We'll either, right now it feels like people can really, really lose it. And perhaps what we saw at the Oscars was a reflection of that, an expression of people really, even at that level, really starting to lose it. Now, it also, remember, these people are professional actors, and there's no doubt in my mind that everyone involved has been initiated into some sort of group. And so they're also incredibly adept as actors to be convincing of a certain reality, okay? We can't not consider that when we look at these things, but that's the whole point, considering all of these potential realities. It could very well be that people are just starting to really lose it, and it's coming out so... Either it's scripted, or it's scripted at a spiritual level, and it's still coming out in the actions of the Matrix reality. So, but it could have been staged. Who knows? It's interesting to think about it. But Mars square Uranus is still very active as well. So, and that Venus conjunct Saturn is not a fun transit. It can be very... there's a bitterness there. Even in Aquarius, I think it helps to be a little detached emotionally while still embodying the bandwidth of the collective. But Saturn is making, there's just no getting around what is going on. There's change happening. There's evolution happening. And there is some measure of shock absorption, but it really is, and maybe it's from your relationships, maybe it's within you, right? Aquarius people, that transit, all those transits are happening within your first house or in your sign. So you may be the shock absorber in the people in your life in some ways, or just the collective in general. And I definitely feel that personally with Aquarius. And Juno, I have Juno also in Aquarius in my first house. So I'm definitely feeling like the shock absorber. And I was out in the public sphere this weekend. So like really out, like I was on a shopping trip with my fam. And so being out and even being with them and just realizing the gap in reality, even as you share space so intimately with people, was just, it was a little overwhelming for me, especially because my dad may have cancer again. I'm finding out all these people in my family got the cootie stick and I didn't know. So, it's the heaviness of it is starting to become very real to not just us, but everybody now. And so we're taking it on. So, let's see how our sun has been acting. Oh, I wanted to show this to you real quick, which is, hold on here. Yeah, it's open. I just wanted to show you where Maldives, I think it's Maldives, is here. Let me take this. Just to get an idea, because again, where Neptune is right now is exactly what is such an amazing. So here it is in the Indian Ocean, just what are we, southwest of the tip of India. So it's the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, but this is really the Indian Ocean. So here, this is just this desert island out here, and an archipelago country in the Indian subcontinent of Asia. Sri Lanka. So it's its own entity, it's its own national entity, or its own country, right? And so, but again, it's something about being so remote and on this desert island where Neptune is the ocean that's been surrounding us for a long time now, where we are now at a point where it's time to start acknowledging what we're here to do, and not even acknowledging it, but centralizing it, doing it, being connected to it at a cosmic level, a transcendental level. So let's look at what our sun's been doing the last couple of days. So two things: we are in a coronal hole stream, and what does that mean? That means that there's a hole in the corona of the sun that, and the magnetic field of the sun, as the sun is rotating along its own axis, meets up with the magnetic field and the interplanetary magnetic field of our planet and around us. And what it does is it links up magnetically and creates this tube, and then the solar wind just shoots through it. And so when we look at these types of graphs, we see that the solar wind is enhanced. So this is the 27th between the 27th and 28th, which is today. So between yesterday and today, so the solar wind speed gets faster, the temperature gets hotter, the density is pretty steady for the most part, and you can see that there's geomagnetic disturbance, and you can see that here. Right, the yellow, which is, pretty much today so far, it says our magnetosphere is unstable, right? It's getting bombarded, and it's not total geomagnetic storm yet, but it is starting to, it had started to get unstable, right? And you can see that if you go to the graphs of the magnetosphere and the density and pressure. So the other thing I wanted to show you is that we are going to get probably the CME from a flare 2 days ago. That's going to happen probably tomorrow, as they're predicting, and you can see the endless spiral. But also right this morning, if you can see it, it's kind of hard to see, but there was an X-ray solar flare that happened really early this morning. It wasn't even there when I got up first and looked at it. So between that, when I first got up and checked this stuff to now, is a solar flare. So that's probably going to produce another CME. So we're going to be kind of in this area of a higher intensity, higher speed, higher temperature, solar weather plasma, right, coming towards us. So just something to keep in mind. I know yesterday I felt like shit. I'm just going to be real about it. And I knew that it was because there was just, it wasn't total geomagnetic storm, but I could feel the intensity of it. And I just had a headache and my body was inflamed. And, I didn't make the best food choices over the weekend because I was on like a little holiday thing, but like a shopping trip. And that certainly had its impact, that's for sure, but definitely the solar weather was having an impact as well. So that's what I wanted to share. It's so that we are all kind of learning how this actually works and functions, and then we can start to anticipate, right? Just like that 13 degrees in Aquarius of being the barometer, the measurement and change in pressure, air pressure, but even solar weather, right? We can measure the changes, but there's certainly no shortage of sunspots and solar flares on the way as we are, in the upward peak of solar maximum right now. So, lots of solar activity, which I think is good, right? Light is information, and that's something to keep in mind. So I want to share today's reading with you. I think that's all I wanted to share about that. So let's do. So we did do a reading. So, and I'm going to take this out of the way for now. And okay, my friends. So the wheel and the wheel and the wheel, right? We have the Wheel of Fortune as our causal factor reversed, which I'll show you right here in its upright glory. Right here is the wheel. And you notice everything is on the outside of the wheel. They're wrapped around the wheel. At least this being is wrapped around, has two different swords or some sort of tool in its hands, and the wheel is turning, right? And there's thunder and there's lightning, right? This is truly what this Grateful Dead song is about, this archetypal symbol, right? And this is something where the hub of the wheel is staying centered, but everything turns around it. And this truly represents, this is number 10 in the major arcana. This is Wheel of Fortune. It is related to Jupiter. Okay, so when it's reversed, there's a lot of ways that this could go. And it doesn't mean it's turning any less than it would be turning upright. It really has a lot more to do with our understanding of the situation, right? Jupiter is about understanding, big picture, synthesis, conclusion, right? And belief system. So the wheel is turning no matter what. And it really has more to do with how we understand it, and how we expand as a result of understanding how the wheel turns. And so fate is often connected to this card. And fate, I think, most of the people here, I would say at this point, probably understand that fate really is a cause and effect relationship. It's not something that's predetermined outside of our actions necessarily, or even our consciousness, but is really a reflection of what we've already done. What happens is a reflection of what we've already done. And maybe what has already been done has been hidden. And I'm inclined to think that to feel, even though this is reversed, and that can mean a change for the worse. It could mean that there has been, that we're resisting the change, that we're not facing up to the facts, that we're in a sense of fatalism, but we are not accepting them, any of those things. I also feel like that there was something about this change in fortune that is unseen, that it's still very much happening, is still very much in effect, but is something that is not obvious. And the phrase that I thought of, that continues to be thought of, is future proves past. And, there's a lot of, that's a loaded phrase at this point, obviously, for a number of reasons. But what it does suggest very, very simply is that when those causal factors, or that change in fortune, or the turning of the wheel is hidden or not seen or not acknowledged or not understood, it's only after the course of events that create the effect that the cause or the actions that led to it are really known. And so this could also reflect an unknown changing of the wheel. And I'm inclined to believe that these things are not mutually exclusive in terms of the unknown turning of the wheel and the lack of acceptance of what is considered a cause and effect relationship, right? That there has been a shift, or something has happened for the worst, right? Bad luck is a really easy way to look at this card reversed. But I do get the sense here that, yes, bad luck, a change that we don't want, but we are totally responsible for getting the effect because it's based off of our own behavior. But also, too, that it may not be until after the effect is known that the causal factors will also be known. Okay, so that's something to consider as well. But very simply, right, the turning of the wheel that never stops. It never stops and it doesn't slow down and it keeps going. So you can wrap yourself around it. You can find some way to hang on. I mean, you got the Sphinx up here that is just at the very top and so is very poised right now and very balanced. So who knows what that would be as the wheel continues to turn. But we know that the center, no matter what, as you can see everything flying off here, you see all these stars and thunderbolts. You can even see a triangle in the background here. It's the hub. It's the stillness in the storm, right? It's the stillness at the center that is immovable, right? And so where is that? That's the center of you. You know, that's your heart. That's your soul. That's your infinite self, your infinite divine self at the center here. That is inseparable from a creator or God or source that is infinite, right? At least in this universe. So that's the other thing too. So remember, this horizontal axis, as I've talked about many, many times, is in fact what is going on out there in the, especially in the matrix of reality that is crumbling away. So it gives us a sense of what is happening in the materium exclusively. So we have another major arcana card right after this at the center. It's the universe. So here's the wheel again. So you notice in this card, they're on the outside of the wheel. Now at the very end, this is the last card of the major arcana, or the trump cards. Talk about another triggering word. Anyway, it's the it's again, here's the wheel, but there's like this being, this character, this divine feminine aspect is on the inside of the wheel, right? And so there's the eye, right, that has all of the rays of light coming directly through the pupil, but also spreading out in all directions. And this is our eyes are really one of the most are the senses. It's the sense, let me put it this way, it's the sense that's built to respond to light more than any other. I mean, we certainly respond to heat on our skin, so in terms of touch, and we respond to other types of vibration, like through sound, through our hearing, but it's sight. It's our eyes and our pineal as well, the third eye, that also responds to light, right? And this is when you're trying to sleep and you're getting bombarded with high energy radiation, electromagnetic radiation or light, right? This is where those dream states get very psychedelic and very trippy and very visceral. But anyway, here's the wheel and she's in the center now. And we have the serpent here representing the wisdom, right, of the serpent, and she is very much in control of this whole situation, right? She is the center of it. She's dancing with it, right? And you have all of these beings shooting water out of their mouth and noses, right? So there's also an expulsion of spirit and energy. But again, there's this cosmic egg here in terms of the circle. So the wheel is definitely turning, but right now at the heart, it's a zenith, right? We've come to a climax of something. And Neptune as cosmic consciousness can be connected to this card because number 21 certainly adds up to 3. So again, there's a very stable sense here, but it really relates to Saturn in terms of a planet. This card, right? This particular symbol, the universe, or the world, is related to the earth element and to Saturn because it's about something very material that has come to come to its conclusion or its zenith of development. Some sort of goal has been achieved, right? And there's a sense of inner independence. There's a sense of harmony between the body and the spirit. So this is actually very favorable. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to necessarily like what has come to a zenith of development or a goal that has been achieved, but it does suggest here that we've reached some sort of climax or pinnacle or a sense of harmony, if we can, right, in everything that has transpired, even though it's been the turn of the wheel. And it seems like the turn of the wheel certainly is something that a lot of people don't want or didn't identify with or are struggling with. But I also, again, I feel like it's something unseen and now something very seen, something very known. And in fact, it can't be not seen, right? I mean, there's like light shooting out of this eyeball into the wisdom of the serpent, and this divine feminine is dancing with it, all within this circle. So this feels right now, we're at this moment, and everything else surrounding it is is not very easy. And it does suggest that many people are feeling the collective suffering. They feel like they don't belong where they are, maybe struggling with what knowledge or communication. And like I said, it's not set yet, this Eight of Cups, and we have the Eight of Roses. We have both of them in a position right now that's either reversed or not fully upright. And so there's some fragmentation still, right? We really do have to find our commonality as humanity right now. And it'll come through the turning of this wheel, right? Seen, unseen, accepted, not accepted, it's still turning, and we're still here now. We've come to a pinnacle, right? We've come to a moment of development and achievement, and how people feel right now is going to have a big impact about this Eight of Cups. And best case scenario is that we, wake up out of our numbness, and the best case scenario is that the illusions have all lost their luster, and we may feel frustrated, but there's somewhere to go, right? Some waking up from the Eight of Cups. But worst case scenario here, just to put it very bluntly, is suicide, right? The Eight of Cups is depression and suicide. You're just getting pushed down further and further. It's like a weight, you're being weighed down and sinking to the bottom of the ocean, right? That is Saturn in Pisces. So it's not set, but it's on either side of things, and it has a lot to do with where we are right now, which is something has reached an achievement. Like, it's happening, right? The disclosure is happening. And what that feels like and how we embody that is going to be varied for a lot of people. But I would imagine that many people who are aware and awake to this and are watching it happen probably have many people in their lives that are going to be way more negatively impacted. And that's just part of being human. And so give yourself space for that, I would say, and know that there's shock absorption somewhere, right? Even if it doesn't seem very much, it's there. And I think it's truly just the result of having been aware and conscious of what's been going on for the last couple of years, at least, or more. That will be the shock absorption for those who are going to get, slammed in the face. It's a different story entirely. And so that's why this isn't quite, one way or the other, because people are going to respond very differently. So let's look at energetically where we all are. And then there's some good guidance to help us get right with ourselves, right? So the Eight of Roses as well. We have Eight of Cups and Eight of Roses. Both of them this is very much reversed, right? The Sangha, the spiritual community. But in this reversal, you may find that there's a disruption within you in terms of the groups that you belong to, your family, the place where you feel emotionally safe. You might feel like you don't belong with them anymore. When this is reversed, you may find you've gone as far as you can with this group and they just don't resonate any longer. Oh my gosh. Interested in new things maybe, so you want to step away. These are all the ways that you can kind of understand this card and its reversal, right? And so depending on the person or the situation that I would be reading for, of course, this would take on a very much more specific meaning. But there are communities that do share your interests and support your endeavors, and maybe it's time to find a bit more support within those communities right now. You may feel like you just want to be on your own too. I mean, all of this Aquarius energy, right? Love humanity, not a big fan of human interaction necessarily, right? Like the messy, awkward, emotionally impactful one-on-one relationships are much more of a Libra type of thing as opposed to an Aquarius type of thing. So that's something to consider as well with all this Aquarius energy. But Venus is there, and so there's a sense of value for these groups, these friendships, these larger social institutions. But when it comes to the emotional relationship, this is very much a Cancerian thing here. And there is something deeply off, or just something is feeling very disrupted, or maybe just grief, honestly, as you realize that you don't resonate with certain people. And that's not new, right? This is something that has been building and we've all been going through for probably a long time now. I just think that it's becoming more and more real, right? It's becoming more palpable in our emotions, our feelings. We're starting to have much more direct relationship with what this feels like, especially when they're your very close friends, they're your family members, your spouse, your siblings, the spiritual community, your church, whatever. It's starting, the disruption and the disconnect emotionally is becoming so much more we're just becoming so much more sensitive to it. And the moon in Aquarius, for as much as that would allow us to feel kind of aloof, I have a feel it's not really helping. That's kind of how I feel about it right now. It's almost making it too like logical and you know what I mean? It's intellectualizing it in a way that's just like you can't get around it. And the moon meeting Saturn today in Aquarius is also part of that as well. So we'll go into that with the chart in just a moment. So the Queen of Scrolls also reversed in terms of where our consciousness is, what we're paying attention to, what we're aware of, what we're thinking about, what our conscious attention is drawn towards. And the Queen is certainly the water element, but with the scrolls, I mean, she has access to the Akashic records, right? She has this very thin veil between us and the scroll that she's holding, and she's got the third eye lit up, right? And she's very there's a lot of softness, there's a kindness, there's a sense of holding space and being available, but there's not a lot of like, hey, offering or taking any kind of action. She really is just there to present and hold the wisdom for when we step forward and decide to engage with it. So oftentimes these court cards are people, right? Either us or other people are representing them in our lives. And I would say that many of us are having a hard time right now wrapping our head around some things. And maybe there's a separation with this woman in your life. Perhaps there's been a disruption or a distancing with a woman who is very intellectual or is in publishing or research or communication. But really, I think it's the feminine aspect of all of us having a lot of uncertainty about the future, right? Not really trusting or having doubts, honestly, having doubts about this, deeper spiritual knowing that is so available to us as we just have to tap into it. But there's some doubt here and a sense of uncertainty. I think that's the biggest thing that's coming through, despite that the heart of the matter here with the universe is that there is something definitive that has been reached. But what happens from there, I think, is really a lot of where people's minds are. I know that's where mine is. I mean, I can see a lot of my own feelings being presented in this reading, but I also know that I'm not the only one that's, my experiences are a reflection of the macro right now. We're all going through it in some way. So the indolence, or the Eight of Cups, is Saturn in Pisces. So you can see that there's not much left here. And what little there is kind of getting squeezed out of these lotus flowers, right? They're not really, if you take care of any kind of plants at all, you know that this is what happens when plants are dehydrated. They droop, right? They need torpor pressure from the water in their cells to maintain their posture or to maintain their upright position. And so there's just so little left. And what's interesting is because there's no flow. You're just sinking and sinking and sinking. You're like in a bog with Saturn in Pisces. So the Eight of Cups is like you're just drained dry. And like I said, the best case scenario for a card like this or an energy like this is that the delusion has lost all attraction and you're left with frustration. But there's a call to be heard, to leave the bog of numbness. And what's interesting is that the moon's going to be coming into Pisces tomorrow and then through Wednesday. And there is a degree it's going to cross. It's a Draco marking that is very much about heeding the call. And at the same time, also sounding the call. And we'll talk about that tomorrow a little bit more when the moon actually comes into Pisces. But abandon the past and open your eyes to the coming changes. There's transformation coming, and there is an opportunity here to kind of pull ourselves out of dumb resignation, right? And not everybody's going to. And this is why, this is in this position. And I didn't place it in this position. These cards pop out. I don't even draw them, right? They just pop out of the deck as they pop out of the deck. And I put them down how they land. And this is exactly what it looked like. And so some people are not going to be able to take themselves out of that dumb resignation. And that'll have an impact. And other people are going to be like, whoa, what has been going on? And again, there's that wheel of fortune turning that we don't really see. We just know and feel right here at the heart of things that something has been achieved, something very substantial, a big cycle that represents the entire world is coming to fruition, or at least has come back around to meet its conclusion. So there's some good guidance here because we can't control what anybody else does. And I think for me, that's absolutely some of the, the grief that goes along with having to resign oneself. Depression is what comes before acceptance in the stages of grief, right? And it's going to hit people in so many different ways, but I do get a sense that we have to be very real with ourselves about what this is and what to expect. And for all the excitement about, certain things coming to light and the potential for humanity moving forward, there's also an incredible tidal wave of emotional collective karmic grief that we're going to all be feeling, whether we personally feel it or not. So, and if you're a starseed, or certainly if you're an empath, my Lord, and if you have personal people in your life that have been impacted, will be impacted, right? There's people in my life, I have family members that have passed away in just the last couple of months, and I know they got the cootie stick, and I know that's why. And like trying to explain that to other family members who are just like, they have not put the pieces together for themselves about why, how that happened or what was going on. And, people were already passing away. This is not new. People having health problems, all this stuff, but we know now, the numbers are in when it comes to the cootie stick. So it's all coming. The disclosure is coming, and is here. This is what the universe or the world card really represents. So let's look at the guidance here that's going to help us. Number one, the War of Roses. So, the battle is still within us, right? We are still absolutely fragmented and really dealing with the emotional impact of this divisiveness, even within us, right? And it may be expressed outside of us as well. We may be paying attention to it, but it's still very much part of our reality right now. And there is a war within. So we could be having a relationship or honestly with our own heart. We've tried to bring these two aspects together, but it's just not compatible, right? We've been trying, and that's part of just, wanting things to be a certain way. And maybe it's time to make plans to exit the battlefield. And not that there aren't aspects to be standing up for, and there's plenty, right? It's not to just resign ourselves of our own, human rights or anything like that. It's more about this reality here is not serving us anymore now that the nodes have shifted into Taurus and Scorpio. It will serve us way more at a karmic and soul level to get out of this literal dichotomy, and emotionally too. It's really impacting us emotionally, and I can speak to that personally. It's awful to hold space for these two versions of reality when the people that you're very, very close to are on the other side here, and you're like, hey, why don't you come over here? And it's like, sometimes it might be too late for that in particular. Not that it's too late for them to come over, but like they've already made their decisions, right? So that they can't go back from. It's not easy, but the battle is definitely within. And here's the tortoise. You're too fragmented. Do what you need to do to get grounded, right? It's very easy to succumb to a false sense of urgency, and we'll find all of these ways to distract ourselves or to keep ourselves from just being with what is. And slowing down in order to align ourselves with our own internal rhythm. So, you know what it is, like workaholic, you're constantly, engaged in social media and communication, or you're just doing things and doing things and doing things, and you're like, oh, there's this urgency, and it's not actually urgent. But it's easy to succumb to that. And there's very concerted effort to create that experience from a number of different areas or perspectives out there, because this is very easy to control, manipulate people when they're not aligned with their own internal rhythm and their own gut. So if this is a real struggle, or if you just need a little bit of a shift in perspective in terms of, the emotions and the feels of all of this, get your feet on the ground, basically, right? Take that time to sit down and breathe and do your prayer or meditation space that slows it all down, and you connect to the infinite nature within you, and then it just drops away. But I do feel the fragmentation, of course. The Wolverine here is, you're a lot tougher than you think you are. And I think that the uncertainty here, we'll go back to that in a minute. The uncertainty here, that in terms of what's going to happen, what we think, what we know, our knowledge base and information that is available to us, either out in the public sphere or even at a spiritual or esoteric level. There is this sense here that we're getting kind of like, dumped out of our safety zone. The Five of Roses, it's only in a container that is safe and secure, an emotional container that's safe and secure, which is very Cancerian, or this beautiful garden here, that we can truly tap into our nature of discovery and curiosity and a sense of desire and potency and wanting to act, right? He's got a little slingshot right here. So, and with this is reversed, right? That we're getting dumped out of this, right? We're kind of being forced into the real world and having to, respond to that and make adjustments, and not knowing what to expect when that happens. But this, again, the Wolverine, you're a lot tougher than you think you are. And this is about calling on those feelings when you've gone through this before, either past life, some sort of multidimensional experience in this life. That's an easy one. Call on the feelings from previous experiences where you had to tap into your courage in order to get through something, and call upon the warrior inside of you, because that's going to actually assist with a sense of not knowing and uncertainty about the future, and a sense of really just not knowing what's going on, or feeling safe, or feeling like you actually know. There's a sense of doubt in what maybe you had considered what you knew, and it's being, I think, amplified by then also the rug being pulled out from a number of people, right? So some people are going to get the shock absorption. Other people are going to have that rug pulled right out from under them. Some of them don't even realize that they're, going to fall down onto a concrete floor, but they will. And this is all part of the being dumped out of the garden, so to speak, right? Where that shell or that protective barrier around us of our family, of our own character, of just nature in general is not going to be as available. So we will need to call upon our courage. You're a lot tougher than you think you are. Wolverines are incredibly ruthless and very tough. They have really tough skin, like very tough skin, so it's very difficult to penetrate. They have these claws, and they are scavengers, and they will chase off even like, large prey or predatory animals, like large predatory cats from their own kill, because they're just so ruthless, and you can't, scratching and biting them isn't going to work. I mean, straight snakes and stuff will come and like try to bite them or, hurt them in some way. It's very difficult. So thick skin, my friends, thick skin. It doesn't have to be a shield, but a thick skin goes a long way when you're going into some sort of battle, right? So that's the reading for today. I think that for the ministry in particular. So let's get a look here at what we're gonna do with the chart today. Let me show you the chart. I'm going to also check in with the chat here and see how people are doing, right? All right, so here is our chart for today. So you guys can take a look at that. I fought the wheel, but the wheel won. Oh, no. I wish I could have I wish I could have sobbed and released stuff over the weekend, but I felt frustration mounting all day Sunday with various niggling obstacles. Yeah, I just felt like shit on Sunday, and and then when I did sob, it was like I was so tired. You know what I mean? Like I felt that refractory of just like, okay, I can't even like feel anything now. So I'm just gonna, yeah, the wheel won. That's exactly what it was. The wheel won. Awareness is becoming the bamboo mat. Oh my God. Wow. Alex K, I gotta tell you, I'll tell you about it more in a DM, but you were in my dream last night. You were on stage playing a guitar. And singing a song. So, and now you're saying the awareness is becoming the bamboo mat, like you are the spoon, right? Or there is no spoon. But I think awareness is becoming the bamboo mat is just mind-blowing right now. So I appreciate that perspective a lot right now. So let's look at today's chart. So there are two really big transits today that are worth discussing. And of course, the moon in Aquarius. So I'm starting very early this morning, late last night, when our moon is, moving from the first to second half of Aquarius. And let's see here. Let me look at my notes. Oh, Mercury is in Aries now too, so that's something to consider, that we've gone from this very dreamy, imaginative, very fluid, no boundary, like, just inspired maybe, to Aries. That's like, okay, the mind is sparking, they're just these sparks of ideas over and over, and there's anger, right? There can be some anger, there can be that fighting, right? Mercury and Aries too, them fighting words, right? Maybe that was a reflection of the Oscars, since Mercury has just moved into Aries this weekend as well. That's very interesting. And of course, Mars is the ruling planet of Aries as well. So there's a lot of really interesting crossovers. But the first thing we really are going to look at here is that Mars is going to actually meet the moon, or the moon's going to meet Mars, strangely enough. And this does actually reflect a need to protect oneself or to safeguard oneself, either astrally, right, or in terms of a public setting, right? This is a watchdog, and when the moon meets Mars, just in general, our emotions can easily find an outlet or an output, but it's very protective. Imagine like a junkyard dog, very ruthlessly and viciously protecting the property. This is very much the degree right now of the moon and Mars together. Well, not right now, but this was early this morning or late last night that they came together. So you may have found some sort of experience in your dream state where, yeah, you feel like you're doing battle. I feel like I've been doing battle in my sleep for like 2 weeks now, but this may have come to some sort of more sensitive experience, or you may have Mars that finally was able to be that watchdog, and it was expressed maybe primarily in your subconscious or in your dream state. Remember, the moon is in its not only its waning phase, but we are getting into very soon into the balsamic phase, where it's very dark and not obvious, but still very much at play. And things are kind of stuffed into way deeper into the subconscious, usually in terms of the lunar cycle. So this watchdog, I just get the sense that there could have been this barrier that Mars is acting on, right? Mars is representing the watchdog, astral intrusion, because it's important, because as, as those who are, fighting tooth and nail not to allow the wheel to turn, right? So we have this idea here that the wheel is turning and we try to fight the wheel, but it won, right? There's a lot of people trying to fight the wheel, right? That are scrambling to it's like running across a log in the water, right? Where you're just you're going nowhere, but in the case of the wheel, you really are going nowhere, and there's people scrambling. And I'm not suggesting anybody here is doing that, but it's allowing for the wheel to win and just turning over. And so you might have also found that this connection here represented something that was almost a I don't want to say desperate. It's not desperate, but it's just a really strong expulsion or outputting of energy to protect or to maintain one's sense of safety and caution. So that could be it as well. So, because again, like I said, there's a concerted effort to maintain some level of control, as control is slipping away for a number of individuals, a lot of people. And some people it's literal, some people they think that's what's happening. So the next real big set of transits here is this conglomeration of stuff, of Venus, the moon, Saturn, and even Juno in Aquarius, 21 to 22 degrees Aquarius. So this degree is, it seems very sweet at first. It's like a round rug on a nursery floor, okay? Like you're in like a preschool or like a nursery or a daycare or just like a baby's nursery, and there's like this really nice round rug on like a bare floor, right? There's your shock absorption. There's your cushioning. Now we are talking about Aquarius, and it's very specific, this symbol, the Sabian symbol. It's the warmth of understanding, which comes to those who, now think about the children, the nursery, early in life are open to new possibilities, okay? Now think about this. Those who were early open to new possibilities, who kept their mind open, who were willing to do the deep dive work, okay? This is where the Orion nature was so important over the last 2 years, especially as the North Node was moving through Gemini. And Aquarius is, this degree is absolutely an Orion starseed marking. It is actually the center star. Not in Aquarius, it's in a trine to the center star in the belt of Orion, Al-Nalam. So we talked about that a lot on Friday as well, so you can go back and check that out. But this Venus is in a direct, and Saturn, they're in a direct trine to this position. The warmth of understanding, which comes to those who early in life are open to new possibilities. We really, truly are not alone. We are never left without assistance when we are very eagerly seeking to grow, when it's earnest, right? There's a cushion for the shock that is like a rug or a bamboo mat on the floor. And so it does represent having warm appreciation for things, small comforts, basic opportunities, right? Where gratitude can really come into play, and an awareness of those opportunities that allow us to safely grow into personal maturity. So maybe it was just coming to awareness about what has been unfolding for the last few years. Maybe that is the shock absorption, right? You become the bamboo mat, right? And so perhaps you will be the shock absorption for people in your life or around you as well. But it's the connection with the moon, the moon and Venus and Saturn and Juno all at the same time at this degree, which is kind of a bittersweet thing, right? Not everybody's going to have the same level of shock absorption. They're not going to identify the mat as the same. Some people will be appreciative. Other people will be like, this is bullshit. This doesn't cushion anything, because they've so used to being so much more comfortable. And so, but in Aquarius, it's about the collective bandwidth. It's about the social organizations as a whole, or society as a whole. And that society and the spirit will provide this type of cushioning if we ask for it, right? We're never alone. And sometimes we can get so caught up in our own stuff, right? Which is a very Leo type of thing, by the way. We can get so caught up in ourselves that, in our own stuff, that we don't realize like what is actually here for us, and that what does cushion us. So it's very, very palpable right now with Venus and Saturn meeting, the moon on top of it, and asteroid Juno all in this degree. Pretty much, let's see here, where are we? This morning, right? Here's the moon in Aquarius, here is Venus in Aquarius, and here is Saturn, all the 21 to 22 degree marker. So we've talked a lot about this. I just want to point out here that it's something that is already, that is still very much in play right this moment. And as we move on from this point, I mean, it's good to come back and continue to reflect. Now, moon conjunct Venus, that's very, it's embodying the emotions and the internal feeling landscape. It's something that is easily able to happen. But then moon conjunct Saturn is very sobering for our emotional state, can be very limiting to our emotions. It could be a brick wall to our emotions, where we just have to accept where we are, or at least accept that we can't go anywhere past what this big wall is. So that's part of it as well. And then the moon actually from here comes into a T-square with her own nodal axis. This is very interesting. Let's go back like an hour. So, and this is exactly where Neptune comes into an exact trine with the south node, or K2, and an exact sextile with Rahu, or the North Node, exactly where the moon is coming into a square with these positions, her own nodal axis. So how we feel now in a square relationship to our soul's journey is really reflected by this. So how do we overcome our deep passions, or how do we overcome our passions and that experience to actually teach from a place of deep wisdom based on that experience? How do we access the experience in order to teach from it without being overcome by the experience of it? Does that make sense? And of course, with the moon here, this is a very inner type of, this is going to be a reflection, and not a very good one, because the moon is getting less and less illuminated. So it's something that we really have to feel into. And when you have a T-square, what does that do? That releases the tension of an opposition. And so even though the moon is in square to both of these positions, what it's providing for is a means to release the tension of where we've been versus where we're being pulled to. And this is very much related to Neptune as well. Here is our island out in the middle of the ocean, and it's just us and all the other facets of our consciousness, and we have to work together, and we have to actually accept our dharma. What are our limitations? What are our strengths? What are we here to do? And put our energy towards that. And there's nothing but that, right? Neptune is like, I have the whole Indian Ocean surrounding your little corner of reality, and you can't get anywhere else unless you're willing to swim across the vast ocean, which is an option. But I'm pretty sure with that 8 of Cups, people aren't going to get very far if they try to escape, right? You just have to face it. We have to face who we are collectively, why we're here, and really get on with what we're here to do. And this T-square, I think, is really valuable for giving us an inner experience of, okay, how do I do this? How do I teach the wisdom that I've gained as a result of past experiences of passion without emotionally getting involved in them again? I think a lot of that's going to have to do with feeling into the tension here of the nodes and realizing here that it's going to come through while we are experiencing at a soul level where we're being pulled to, we still are here and now in this moment emotionally and intuitively. And this is what we can tap into. Again, it's kind of like existing in two places at once. And so this is going to give us a chance to practice that, or at least feel into that experience. And that's this afternoon. Now, then Venus comes into the exact conjunction with Saturn. So the moon will meet Venus, it will meet Saturn, it will meet Juno, and then Venus and Saturn will be exactly conjunct after this T-square. Then by the end of today, you're going to see that Neptune is going to be, like I said, is in a trine to Ketu, where we've been at a soul level, right? And what is a trine? This is a very stable, harmonious connection. So we've already collectively and at our soul level have mastered the scorpionic type of transformation, right? The return home from the inspiring or awakening experience, where we've taken that moment and actually start to take it back and apply it to our everyday material life. We have a samadhi moment or some sort of awakening, and then we apply it to our everyday life. We've done this before, and this is the best case scenario for natural living as a spiritual being in a material body, right? But this is also practiced by a number of the secret societies, the mystery schools. This is part of the magic and the energy that is generated in ritual relationships, for instance. So regardless, we've done it already. We've learned about it. We hold it at a soul level within us as a karmic history, and without any intervention, it will be part of the Dharma that we are here to focus on now. And in fact, it is in the sextile to the North Node where we get to transmute this into our soul's journey. And it's really about commanding ourselves, complete command over our own physical nature, complete authority over our own senses and our instinct in a way that is powerful. It may be aggressive, but it's survival oriented, but it's aware. It's totally in tune with the world around you. And that's where the command and authority of one's in relation to what is naturally of value and worth, right? This is Taurus. And so this comes exact today. This is big, right? Again, we're here now. We are here now. It's at a karmic level that is going to have this relationship, this very harmonious relationship with the collective consciousness and the collective experience, addressing our karma and our dharma. Right? That's what's happening here with Neptune and Pisces. So we can't escape what it is. We're on the island, whatever that means to you. And we have to face what is here and be present in this situation. There's no jumping off the island. You want to fantasize about being Tom Hanks and, in Castaway, you go right ahead. But that is not what this is suggesting at all. Now, some people maybe, possibly. Jupiter meeting Neptune, perhaps that will allow for something like that. But we'll get there. That's coming very soon. We're going to have to get past this new moon in Aries with Chiron and Mercury first. So that's going to really set the tone for the whole month of April. So that is big. There's a lot of really big transits happening today. The one I want to end on here is that Lilith, for the next couple of months is going to be dancing around, is going to be coming into Cancer, then retrograding back into Gemini, and then prograde. It's going to be dancing around this Gemini to Cancer area for the next number of months, right? So it's good to focus on what Lilith is doing. So in Cancer, coming into the first couple degrees of Cancer, is going to be in a direct square with our Aries sun as well by the end of today. Mercury, not the sun. That already happened. Mercury in Aries, and Lilith in Cancer in a square. So this is cardinal energy, right? They both have momentum. One is the fire and the spark of creativity, and Cancer is the cardinal energy of our of love and devotion on our relationships and our loyalty and our faithfulness, in a sense of where we belong. And there is there's definitely a testing of the will. But again, with Lilith here, I mean, we have everything within us. We have the stamina. We have the warrior, especially, I'd say, this really deep, dark, powerful feminine aspect that demands to be heard, demands recognition, and will survive, because it is in fact it is the blueprint of us as humans on this planet, of beings and stewards as well. There is a testing of the will here with Lilith today, in a square to Mercury in Aries, where it's all potential here. Anything you can think of it has the potential to actualize and manifest, right? It is just idea after idea after idea, and it can be very fighting words, right? It really can be. But this particular square is challenging our own sense of character and our ability to follow through when we even want to turn around and go back, with the idea, the mental experience or the thought experience, or even just the sense of knowing that you are participating in something more than yourself. And that's all potential and desire and action that has no thought. That is Aries, right? And so Mercury in this position is not thinking even ahead of what we will say or express or even discover. It's just going. And the square here is reminding us about our responsibility and what we will have to face as a result of these thoughts that become manifested life forms. That's Aries is all the potential of growth, and Mercury is, in fact, the mental experience of it. So manifestation happening very quickly from this perspective. And it's important that we give ourselves an opportunity, or at least acknowledge very deeply what that's going to feel like and what it will test, and what, we may find ourselves. It's one thing to just be like, I see myself in the whole, and I am going to, at least in my mind, be this avatar of, the ideal experience of being one with everything else. Now, what that actually means when it comes to your feels, your emotions, your loyalties, your responsibility, your decisions. Lilith is going to draw us way back down into, okay, well, this will require that you may have to turn your back on something. You may have to really dig deep if you need, if your will is being tested, okay? I mean, this particular degree of Cancer, we may want to escape some of this decision that comes, or these new responsibilities that come with a decision point, which is 0 degrees Cancer. And the will lead the mind to the spiritual north. And that's the other thing too. The mind right now in Aries is just like, it's all potential right now, and all desire. And so it's the will, and who has will more than Lilith, right? I mean, she definitely put her foot down about things and was very unwilling to compromise, which in some ways is not a terrible thing when you think about compromise versus consensus, right? I'm sure that if there could have been an opportunity to come to consensus, perhaps this figure would have done so. But my sense is that it was my way or the highway, and she said, I'm taking the highway. And so it'll be the will. It'll be a deep will to assert our natural birthright as beings on this planet that belong to this planet. We are heirs to this creation. And it's going to lead the mind toward that spiritual north of the soul. But it'll come through discomfort and friction and challenge, because it's a square, right? And this is all by the end of the day. So that's actually where the transits end for the day. So we'll have a moon coming into Pisces tomorrow, and we'll talk about that. Well, I will talk to you about that, because I will be doing the Daily Medicine transmission recording and putting that up tomorrow. So in the meantime, I will exit out of this. I'm going to show the flyer one more time, just in case anybody's interested. I'm going to check in with the chat real quick before we sign off here. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I mean that. So everything you need is in the description box below. I've gone through, I think I went through all of my promotional spiels, and we do have a new moon on Friday in Aries, so we're going to start leading up to that, time. If you've already booked this reading with me, they're going to be recorded this week and sent out leading up to this new moon. So if you still want to book it, you can still book it at this rate and get it next week, and it'll still be completely relevant to what's going on. And of course, if you want your signs forecast for the new moon, you can do that by becoming a subscriber through Subscribestar and being part of the Starseed Fellowship. So with that in mind, my friends, I'm going to leave it here for today. So take very good care of yourselves. Give yourself space. Make space for yourself. And I'll see you tomorrow for the daily. Let me know how you're doing in the chat or in the comments, of course. And I just appreciate all of you so very much. Peace out. I love you. Bye.